All right, in this episode of the My People podcast, I am here with Brenda and Chuck. They are the owners, operators of Life in Michigan. Thanks for making the drive, guys.
Yeah.
It's good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having us out, Mike.
I feel like we have lots to talk about. Very similar side hustles that we have in history and things like that. So if we could maybe just get an overview of how you guys started Life in Michigan. What caused that?
So it started, we were actually looking this up because we couldn't actually remember. It's been a while. It was 13 years, 4 months ago with the very first article, and it was about running in the cold. But it actually started before that. So Brenda had she had started a blog that was about her life with her kids. And I came along and I was like, oh, that's really cool. And then I was into photography and I was doing I'll start my own blog. I'm going to call it Just Chucking Around. And it's going to be my photos. And that literally there was just a URL and maybe one photo. And that's as far as I got. And so then Brenda's going forward. And then we just started talking. She's like, well, maybe we should do things together, and then it kind of turned into, what do we call this?
Yeah.
So what was the focus? Chucking around was just photos and some little things, random stuff here.
Chucking around.
Yeah, I love the name. I think it's great. And what was your blog was about your family and stuff. So you guys are both writers, or?
Yeah, I started it at work. There was all of this chatter in my life at the University of Michigan. There was a lot of chatter about, should we have a blog as part of what we do to promote the clinics that we were doing, or I was doing administration for, and what would that look like? And blogs were kind of like the thing at the moment. They were really hot, and I was like, well, I want one. So and I didn't really have anything to write about other than my kids, and it got pretty boring quick. So
yeah, that's funny. So when you guys developed Life in Michigan, was that because of you guys' shared passion for the outdoors and music? And I see you guys do a lot of features on bands and things like that.
It kind of developed that way, just being about our lives in Michigan. So what do we like to do? What do we do? And it just evolved from there. So years ago, we were really heavily into running, so that's why that first one was about running. But we always enjoyed the outdoors and really were passionate about Michigan and being outside of Michigan and just checking out and exploring it. So that was a feature that got in there. And then I've been in music, I love Michigan music and music in general, so that kind of seeped in there. And so, yeah. And then beer creeped in there, so we were heavily into beer. So that's pretty much the main things with Life in Michigan. It's beer, local music, and travel in Michigan and outside Michigan. But
yeah, it's got to be stuff that you're passionate about or you enjoy in order to keep it going. You don't want to be doing something that doesn't interest you.
Yeah.
And actually, that reminds me, normally I would offer you guys a beer. I didn't do that. Would you like a beer?
No, I'm
okay. We have beer and water. But that's fascinating that you guys, I love that you guys we should do this together. And I'm sure that gave it so much more energy as you guys started moving, just being together, traveling, going to the same events and things.
Yep.
And, as a photographer, you're doing anything with a camera, you have to do it local, There's no choice. Nobody wants to really be one of these travel vloggers or travel photographers where you're gone all the time. You know, I think we all like our beds.
Yeah.
So.
I don't know. Somebody could pay me a little bit to do that. I wouldn't mind it.
One or two paid vacations a year.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want. One vacation is enough flying for me. By the time I get back, I'm,
beat.
Yeah. Ready to have my bed. Well, so what's been one of your? I see it when I was there earlier. It looks like a lot of band features. What do you guys typically do with musicians in the state?
So, years ago, I was in a band and I actually played guitar and did all that stuff, and that kind of led to photography because I'd been into photography when I was a kid, and then kind of stopped doing it and just played in bands and was doing music, and then I screwed up my hand, so I couldn't play guitar. So I was like, well, what am I going to do? And that led to doing the photography, and just I don't know, something about remembering what it was like to be in a band, and the fact that there's so much great music, but a lot of it's just I'm going to go see this national act and not really pay attention to all the music that's literally like anywhere you go in Michigan, almost every day you could go see some awesome music. And so I was like, people need to know about this. And so that's kind of been the focus, and it still is. It's
Right.
like, I just want to showcase all these awesome bands and let people know about them.
I mentioned when you guys first got here, but it was a similar path for me. I was in a lot of bands. I was familiar with that community and that scene, in different areas that I lived. I seemed to always jump in a band. But so when I grabbed my camera and started doing video and was like, all right, I want to develop a show. Of course, the first community I wanted to serve was the local music. I was like, what if there was an amazing, YouTube channel show series or something that promoted the bands and brought them in. And it's always been, like you said, when you grow up, you're connected to it. So it's always there for me as well. I know I plan on having like bands in here to do acoustic, sets and acoustic songs and things like that. I think it's amazing how those communities get their claws in you and never really shake it. There's some nostalgia there. There's the smells of the venues, the looks of the venues. You walk in them and it just brings you back to when you were gigging. And So how long were you gigging with it for, and where was that at? Like
it wasn't a ton of time. I started a band when I was like 24, 25, and it was a band called Battalion. It was like a thrash metal, power metal band in Ann Arbor, and did that for like 6 years. And we did like a little bit of touring. Like we went to Milwaukee for the Milwaukee Metal Fest and some other places. Some shady place in Erie, Pennsylvania. But anyway, did that for just that period of time, and then, was heavily ensconced in it, and then stopped doing it, and then got back into like the other side of, cover it from the other way. So
you're doing photography of like live or the photos for the bands and stuff? So.
Yeah. I just love going to support those bands, so I just go to the shows and take pictures, and then we write about them. So it's like, here, there.
You write about them.
Yeah, I write about them. Well, and sometimes I drag Brenda along with, but she's not into heavy metal, but she is definitely into other music. So it's expanded my palette, because Brenda was into some like more Americana stuff, and she pulled me into that zone. So
yeah, I mean, you're probably one of those curious people that can go into any genre. Is not going to be,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm the same
Except
way, but it takes people.
Music.
I don't go seek it sometimes. It's got to be.
Yeah.
Someone's got to come and show me, or because they can shortcut you to the good stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So are you still at U of M?
No, we retired 3 years ago.
Wow. Yeah. You guys seem really young to be retired.
Good.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I had been there 36 years. I started when I was 3. And then Chuck was there. What were you there? 25, 26?
27, something like that.
Yeah. So we retired 3 years ago and went on a trip out west. It's our Rattling Rita's saga. Now we're just kind of kicking around doing this.
That's awesome. So you were at U of M as well?
Yeah, I was.
Okay.
I worked at Michigan Medicine doing IT.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was there. We left in 22, right?
Yeah.
So we retired on May the 4th, so that we could say, "May the 4th be with you," and then walk out the door.
And that's another thing we have in common. I work at U of M as well. I'm not retired, obviously, but it's I work there. I'm in the trades though.
Oh, okay, cool, awesome.
So you're on campus.
On campus, yep. Work on the radio system, card readers, stuff like that.
Okay.
Low voltage electrician.
All right.
Close, adjacent to IT, you know, but
yeah.
it's a great place to work.
Yeah.
It's definitely its own world, how it operates and things, but it's very stable, which is exactly what you want when you have a family, and when you're trying to save up for retirement, can't be 2-to-1 matching.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it's always funny whenever like you tell somebody that you work at U of M, they go, "Oh, do you know so and so?" Or especially if you say like IT or some other big trade, they're like, "Oh, do you know so and so?" Like there are like 8 million people that work there.
Right.
Once in a while, though, you meet somebody like, "Oh yeah, we do know so and so." So it's kind of funny.
So do you guys do a lot of? I know you said you're runners and stuff. So usually when you hear that, you think hiking, backpacking, stuff like that. You guys into
We've
that?
done lots of hiking.
Yeah, we're recovering runners. I
Yeah.
think of myself that way. When Chuck turned 50?
Yeah,
Yeah, when he
50.
turned 50, he decided that we should run a 50K.
Yeah.
Was it a 50K?
Yeah,
No,
it was. Yeah.
Now is that more than a marathon?
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
31 miles or something like that. Yeah.
That's impressive. My buddy did something similar. I thought he was crazy. It's just like, I mean, it's like, I just don't have that wiring. But when he turned 40, he said, "Oh, I want to run a marathon." And he trained for it without having run much before that and did it, you know, which is, I mean, good. I think it's great to do that, you know, and then you're also saying, "Oh, I'm not really getting older. I'm in the best, health of my life. I just ran 50." So you guys actually did a 50K?
Yeah.
He promised me it would be all downhill.
Right.
And it was a net down. So it was in California by sort of the I don't know if I say it right.
Susanville.
Yeah, Susanville. It's Lasan, like the volcanic national park. So mid California. But anyway, it says like it's a net downhill. So I'm like, you know, at the
downhill.
end. But the first 5 miles was up.
That could just be 51% downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
it was an
Brenda had been
experience.
running
Yeah.
marathons for like before I met her. Had already done like, I don't know, 10 marathons or something.
Wow.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And that's a big part with running. I've always heard is, you know, just having your body, you have to run for years just to build up the cartilage or the, you know, so your body to take that abuse,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I don't think most people could just train over a 4-year period for a 50K, you know.
Although there are some people that they're just like a miracle, like they just don't, they've got like just this constitution that allows them to just do it. Cause I mean, I admire them. In my head, I would love to do like a, 100-mile trail race, but I know that my body could just never do it. Like 30 miles is like,
Yeah, it's that the wear on the joints. You know, running is like so. I've been doing more like biking and stuff. I actually got out, sadly, the first time this year and did 17 this morning, which isn't very many miles when you think about running 50K, but just agrees a lot more. Agrees a lot more with my joints. You know,
Yeah.
I kind of just zone out. I just want to get to that cardio, that kind of where your legs become a machine, and I like the way it feels on the bike. It feels like it agrees with me, and it opened up the door for things like bike packing, which I do with my buddy and stuff like that. So
awesome.
It's nice.
We've seen some. I think we were over in like Hart, Michigan, on the west side. They've got that bike path there that people go down. And then we were over at. You ever been to Detach? There's this kind of I don't know if it's glamping really, but they've got like a hobbit hole and they've got these other types of structures, and it's near Rockford, Michigan, so over by Grand Rapids. But they've got the White Pine Trail.
Okay.
So that looks like another place where you could kind of do that. Backpacking on your bike and ride and go camp.
Yeah, we did a North Country Trail, a pretty good stretch a couple years ago. That was our first time doing it, and I didn't really check out my bike beforehand. And we did our first day, and we got to the river where we were going to camp, and we set up our camp, and we take our stuff off our bikes, and then we were going to go get some water from the pump. So we get on our bikes that are now empty, and we grab some water, and I'm coming back. I don't have anything on my bike, and I just felt so light, so I go up this little dirt pile to jump it, and my back tire flies off. And then when I come down, I land like on the tire, and it just broke a bunch of parts and stuff on my bike. So, so that trip was over. So my buddy rode the roads back to our drop-off point, our other car, and then we just went over to Nord House and camped on the beach. But that kind of got cut short, which was a bummer. But I love that with the West Coast, like Manistee River area, Little Manistee. It's just endless things over there to do and use. And the more you go to state land, that's why I love Michigan, is just like you got to go there in order to understand it, see where you can camp, where you can park. And then after you do that, it's like, oh, that's like my property now. I know exactly where to go. I know exactly how to have a good time there. And
we were talking to Terrace Ahrens. I don't know if you know him. He's the executive director of the Chelsea Area Chamber of Commerce. But he's a big camper, and he's talked about that, like being up at some of these, especially on the east side of the state, because it kind of gets ignored. Everybody's like, oh, Lake Michigan and the sandy beaches, but there's some really nice beaches over on the east side. And he's like, yeah, we've got this great place we go to. We have this group of friends that, come out every year and go there. And it's like, but it's, like you said, it's like the state land, but it almost feels like it's your own personal place that you go to. And if you you really don't want to share it with anybody. You're like, oh, don't come.
Yeah. I always feel like that's why there's not, because I'm like, obviously somebody should be doing trip guides, this is where you drop in at, this is where you pick up, this is how you do like a hop or whatever. But I'm like, I'm even hesitant. I'm like, well, that's usually like the trip that we always do,
Right.
I think that's the thing with that community is like, you really don't want it to be too accessible.
Yeah.
You should have to put forth a little bit of effort to go and explore it. Or, like what we'll do is pull out the map and pull out the satellite and be like, okay, that looks like we can get back there on that 2-track or whatever, But once you go once, it's...
Well, we just interviewed Janelle Buttery. Is that how you say her last name? Anyway, we were, and she lives up in Marquette. And so we were asking, asking, are there any hidden gems? And, where's your favorite place to, go hiking or swimming? She's like, well, I do have a spot, but I'm not going to say it here because I don't want anybody else to know, right?
Yeah.
And Tara said the same thing,
It's like morel mushroom hunters,
Right,
They're like, I'm not telling you. It's somewhere near Chelsea, but it's...
I could very easily drop a pin and share it with everybody, but
Right.
I'm not going to do that. I have my own, my Google Map pins are my secret.
Yeah.
Actually, today I was cruising and I'm always shocked at how much state land is like south of me here.
Oh, yeah.
People always think all the state land's north of 94 out here in like the Grass Lake, Waterloo Rec area.
Yeah.
But the Sharon Valley recreation area.
Yeah.
And when you're cruising those dirt roads over, that's usually where I cruise. I just like to do the dirt roads, but I was getting off at a couple trails today and just going back and exploring and seeing where they went. Some of them just went to, it was like a 2-track that just ended and, at like a camp area, or like a big clearing, and that was it. But you're still thinking like, oh, I can probably come back here and just have a little fire and bring my a hammock camp, and set that up if I want to ride my bike over there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
But there's lots over there. I know when I went to Colorado, I found a bunch of great spots. So like I know the perfect spot, like right in Atlanta at the airport and get a rental, exactly where I can go and always find a spot to carside camp. So I don't need a hotel on that first night. But first time you went there, you couldn't guarantee something like that. So you get the Airbnb, you get the hotel. But since then we've used that spot a couple times, and it's
well, as we've gotten older, the ideas of like camping in a tent, it's like I don't know.
Well, I always thought, I've talked about this on the podcast plenty of times. I had a lot of people that I know from the hammock camping community on. But when I was, younger, I just thought, when you camp in a tent, when you're out in the backcountry, you just don't sleep good. I mean, I just like accepted it, But when I jumped into a hammock and started hammock camping, with a little tarp above it and a bug net, I slept through the whole night, and I was like, oh, I can sleep through the whole night in the woods and the backcountry, and that was a game changer for sure.
See, I've not really explored that, so I don't really know.
It's a little more comfy. Plus, you don't have to do the whole crawling in to the tent on your hands and knees thing. You're sitting on the edge of the hammock.
And you haven't set your tent on that one root and rock that's like jammed up into the back middle.
Or
of your
you
back.
lay down and you're like, oh, all my blood's rushing to my.
Why are we this way? Yeah, you wake up and the next morning and everybody's like shifted over. Like, what happened?
Yeah. Plus if you're down a hill or something like that, water comes in.
Oh,
It's amazing how it shifted for me with that for sure. I mean, I got one on my front porch, and it's not your Eno hammocks either. They don't like squeeze you. They're pretty comfy.
Huh. All right.
I think it's definitely something worth trying. But do you guys have, when you guys go camping now, do you guys have like a little camper or van or something?
No.
It's funny that you should ask about this. So when we did the Rattling Rita trip, we rented a vintage VW camper van, and it was really vintage. It was what, 70?
It was at 87.
87. We didn't know, but it had no AC when we got there, and we picked it up in Las Vegas.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was hot.
And it had leather seats that just burned your legs, right? Like, it was awful.
Yeah.
We should have just turned around and said, forget it. We're not
Give
doing
us
this.
a modern one. Give us the 2020 version.
And no power steering, like one of those old truck, so it's like this. So it was fun, but it was also very, you're 35 miles an hour on the expressway going up a hill. Go, come on, baby, come on.
Pushing.
And it ended up breaking down like 3 times. There was a problem with the starter. It would get too hot, and they never really diagnosed. We took it to 3 different places because the place we rented it from said, "Oh, I know a guy," and because we were in Santa Fe in New Mexico, I know a guy. He's an expert on these things. He'll fix it. Then we were in Flagstaff and it broke down. He's like, "Oh, I know a guy. He's gonna fix it."
Yeah, well, you guys aren't the first ones that's ever rented this. Took that trip. I know where all the mechanics are now.
Yeah.
I guess that's when novelty goes wrong right there, and you're probably wishing you had the brand new RV. But
Yeah, exactly.
probably made for some great photos though at
Great
Golden Hour.
stories.
Oh yeah. It was like we said, it was a fun trip. We were trying to hit pieces of Route 66 while we were out there. So we were kind of in the New Mexico, northern Arizona section, and it was really cool. But yeah, it was just like, oh, this van. And even like sleeping in the van and setting up camp and everything was fun. It's just like when it wouldn't start and you're like in the middle of nowhere or stuck at the gas station because it won't start. You're like, ugh.
Yeah, when a vehicle with no AC is standing still, it's never fun. My last vehicle, I like to get vehicles and pay them off and have them as long as I can. And my last Equinox, the AC went. And that was kind of the thing. After one summer, the next summer started creeping up on me, and I'm like I at least deserve to have AC, So I ended up selling that, and I got the Prius I have now. And just recently, the AC went out on that. I think it's because I hit a deer over the winter.
Oh, no.
So I'm back to no AC again. I don't know why this is like kind of a little curse I have with vehicles, but I'm back to like holding my hand out the window and trying to bounce some wind down my shirt, yeah.
Well, so we've named our Subaru, and so we're taking Harold camping, and we're going to do the first trip up in Caseville, coming up over the 4th of July. Yep. And we bought the special mattresses for the back of Harold, and where you bring up the back of the hatch. Yeah. And so we've got a tent that's going to go over that.
Oh, yeah.
So we're piloting this little camping experience because we want to take Harold out west and hit some spots that we didn't get to go to when we were out there with Rattling Rita.
Yeah.
And so we'll see.
Yeah. Well, there's probably endless. I see a lot of people do Subaru conversions for, carside camping and for travel like that. So there's probably endless inspiration online for you guys about that.
Yeah, that's how we found like half the stuff that we were going to start off with. It's like those people, there's some folks that go just like hog wild. They've got like, the little power generators, and they've built like shelves and stuff in there. Where we're like, all right, let's just get a mattress at first, and start small before we like get crazy with like the top rail thing and all that other stuff. So.
I can't remember the name of the channel, but my buddy Chad with UGQ, he does like you guys are probably familiar with like quilts, like the camp quilts. He does quilts in Jackson, and he has a podcast that we set up, and he had somebody on that does just the Subaru.
Oh, really?
Camping.
Oh, cool.
And I remember seeing the shots of it. It looked, like you said, it was completely decked out. The rack was packed. And, I did the same thing with my Prius too. It was I got the Prius and I came across like a channel that was like, here's how this guy was stealth camping in it and traveling the country, and then he would just fold everything up and then drive for Uber and stuff like that to make extra money. Oh, and man. He traveled around for years like that. But so I got my windows tinted and got the mattress that fit perfectly in the back. And it's been pretty cool. One time me and Marla, we were getting her a bike, and we went, the only place we could find a bike was Maryland. And I was like, well, you want to take a trip this weekend? So we took the trip and drove to Maryland. And the night before, we were going to pick up the next day. So we went to this little town and we were hanging out, had a great time. And then we just crawled in the back of it. Stealth camp right there on the side. And this place had no hotels. It was like one of those towns that looked like it was built like all within last year. Everything was crisp and new, and but it's really cool when you go to cities like that and you can just crawl right into it, and you got air conditioning and and it only starts up maybe 3 times in the night to charge the battery, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. That's really cool.
Some people set up like fans and stuff so that you can crack your window and circulate air, because it will get stuffy in there.
Yeah, we bought the bug net thing and for the windows and a
fan.
USB fan.
Yeah,
that's why we're doing Caseville as like a little case study.
Yeah.
Camping experience.
Right.
Everything might just go back to Amazon.
I know. I mean, it seems like everybody's pretty friendly for stealth camper. I know like Walmarts and stuff like that, you can pull right in the parking lots and they don't mind you parking there and sleeping there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you can't pop up the tent hanging off the back,
Right.
but you can, you know,
Right.
be
Sleep in
there.
the back. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is pretty neat. State land that you can plan to stop
Yeah.
at. And
Yeah.
I think the Subaru is a good vehicle for that, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's so far we love it. It's a great little vehicle. So we're hoping it'll be a good little camper too.
Yeah. I mean, it can be a real burden if you're hauling around a big camper in a truck, you know, plus the gas mileage,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
you're just not as nimble, can't move as
yeah.
good or
I think
go
that's
off-road.
the best thing is the ability to just kind of explore some areas that you necessarily wouldn't with if you had a trailer, right?
Yeah.
Because you're hauling that thing around. So this can give you just put your camping stuff in the car and boom, go. So.
What was the name of that hotel we ended up after we left Santa Fe? And it was kind of
In New Mexico?
in New Mexico that was really retro.
Yeah, I can't remember the name. I think it was in Grants, New Mexico. But
Yeah.
it was like an old. It was a really cool place. It had it had been like a place for like movie stars to hang out.
John Wayne.
Yeah, so they had all these pictures in there and stuff. I can't remember the name of it.
I can't remember, but there's this great story. So we have Rattling Rita, and we were like, okay, we're done with Rita for tonight. Let's just go to this place. It looks really cool. So we park it, and we're all really excited. But we had driven through a sandstorm, so we had turned on our lights.
Yeah.
And so we were so excited. We were just like, we were running for the door, right? Like, we're going to go have fun. It's got a cool bar in it. And we get all like ensconced in our little spot at the bar, and the security guy comes up and he says, is that VW van yours out there? And we're like, oh, yeah, why? What has it done now? Is it on fire?
Yeah.
Is it on fire? What has it done? Well, your lights are on. So,
Yeah, I'm like, oh shit.
yeah. So Chuck ran out and he turned them off, and the security guy came back and he was talking to the bartender behind the bar, and we're like, well, how'd you know it belonged to us? And he's like, it wasn't really that hard to figure out. And he's like looking at us like, because it was full of a bunch of cowboys at that point, right?
Yeah.
And we truly did not belong there. It was fun.
was
We had
a
a
good
good
place.
time.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah, it looks like a vacation van. You guys look like you might be on vacation.
Yeah.
But look like you're from here. Not enough dust on your
Right.
clothes.
Yeah.
These guys rode in during the storm on their horses.
Yeah.
So you guys like doing like the west, like that area, like you guys do Colorado a lot too, or just kind of like South New Mexico.
We have like when we first started doing some travels, like out of Michigan, we went to Colorado because I dragged Brenda. This is another thing where I've dragged my friends and family into things. Is so like the 50K. Before that, I was like, oh, I really want to power hike up Pikes Peak in Colorado Springs. So I did it by myself, and I was like, oh, this is great, And so then I dragged my buddy Jeff, and I said, you got to go do this. And so then
Rite of passage. You have to go do this.
Right, you've got to go do this. So we've done Colorado a few times, but
Is Pikes Peak one of the 14ers there?
it's 14, but I can't remember. It's not the highest peak. I think Evans is.
Yeah.
It's like, but it's like very, prevalent. Like very one of the first ones before you get to the main range of 14ers. But yeah, it's 14 something. I can't remember.
I always say I'm going to go back and do more. We only did the one trip there, and it was it was funny how it worked out because me and my cousin were kind of just planning. We'd go there, we're gonna go halves on a rental car, we'll car side camp.
Yeah.
We'll, get an Airbnb the first day, and then we'll get our car in the morning. And then my buddy Pat joined in. So me and my cousin Tony had our own checklist. We're like, oh, we just want to camp. Something about being on a lake on the bottom of a mountain. Just kind of like have the. Like check the boxes. This is like the scenery I've always seen that I've wanted to be at, And then my buddy came. He's like, well, I like to do a 14er. So like it came up that, we'll do Snowmass. We just picked it from all trails.
Right.
But Snowmass was, like a 10-mile hike in with crazy elevation change. And then, which my, cousin was kind of struggling with getting back there. And then it was the 14er.
Yeah,
So
climbing.
it was more advanced. Me and my buddy did another one the next day. And they were like, "Oh, that one's pretty risky. We haven't done that one yet." We're like, we barely acclimated and stuff. And,
Oh man, that's the worst.
But we all summited, and it was one of those just crazy, life-changing kind of experiences because you're hiking all day, and then we finally come over the ridge at the top, and the wind was coming from that direction. So all of a sudden the wind's up, and we're yelling like, "We're almost there!" And we're scurrying the rocks to get up to this last little peak. And we summited with a group and got some great photos. And this like plane flew over, like they like to do that, like right at sunset when they know everybody's getting up there.
Yeah.
And tilted the wings and did a little lap around us. And
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a cool experience. I definitely like to go back and do that mountain again, just because it was such a like you said, like you had such a great time that you drug a bunch of people there to have the same experience.
Well, and Pikes Peak's like totally accessible, right? It's right in Manitou Springs, right up by Colorado Springs. You can just have somebody drop you off. There's a road that goes up to the top. So, and there's a cogwheel train. So you could actually, and that's all we did. We just hiked up and got a ride back. So you don't have to, and it's doable. You get up at like, 3 or 4 in the morning and you're up there, because you don't want to be out late afternoon because thunder and lightning and, you're dead. But,
He didn't mention that.
you got to get there early so you can get out and, but.
Yeah, definitely got to watch the weather when you're going to be up there. You're the most conductive thing on that mountain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'd like to go do more of them. I definitely understand the lure. Like, there's a lot of people that just like to knock out 14ers and see how many they can do. And it's always rewarding when you get up there and the view is just it's amazing.
Yeah, there's a few I think the only drawback to Michigan, I love Michigan, is that we don't have mountains. But we do have, like, up by Marquette, there's Sugarloaf, there's Hogback Mountains, and you get sort of that feeling. I mean, it's not nearly the climb, but they are exposed, rock, and you kind of feel like, oh, I'm back, out west, sort of, and it's really cool during the, fall colors because then you get this beautiful view, and so.
Yeah, usually we do a trip every year, me and the kids in the UP, and one time we found this we were up near Marquette, like there, by that thin, that little park where you can almost like walk out to the island.
Yes, Presqu'île.
Yep, and it's right across the street from there. There's this little park, and you can rent a cabin, and you got to kind of walk your stuff back there. But I mean, right when you go in there, there's just this giant rock, and people are kind of swimming and fishing off of it. But you go around, and the cabin we were at was just facing this big rock formation.
Oh, nice. Did we camp there? It sounds familiar.
It sounds familiar. I don't think that is where
that cabin we rented.
That cabin wasn't like on Lake Superior. It was like across the road.
It was across the road. Yep. So we were at the pier, but we went over there and hung around for a little bit. Collecting rocks and just walking, but then right across the street, so going south from Superior, almost right across the street, it was a cabin. Just nice little, I think they had like 4 bunk beds, a little wood burning stove that you could cook on, so I cooked a meal right there, a little table inside and then table outside, and the one that we had was facing right at that rock formation. And I remember I was so excited, like the kids are kind of settling down, and so I crack a beer and I go outside. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna fly my drone now. This is gonna be beautiful. Like that rock was glowing. And I was so excited to fly around, and I started hooking up my drone, and I realized that my phone did that thing. Like, this is like when it was kind of new, where if you didn't use an app for a certain amount of time, it would upload it to the cloud, and it's going to be accessible when you want it, But not when you're in the middle of nowhere. So I couldn't fly my drone. I was so upset. I'm like,
I think it was.
I think it's
that same one. Yeah.
Yeah, we stayed at a cabin out there.
Yeah, I tell people about that a lot. It was really cheap, affordable, cool experience.
Yeah, it was very nice.
You had to park like at a little rail. They had the 2 tracks, but you had to park there, and then you had to carry your stuff to the cabin.
Yep.
And they had water.
Yep.
You could pump the hand pump.
Yep.
And they had pit toilets.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
We had a good time at that cabin.
We did it before we went to because we always go up in early September for the UP Fall Beer Fest. So it was right before then. Like the week before, we went up there and for a few days. So it's a super cool place.
Yeah.
Yep.
We did one night there. I like to do. I've always say like, one year I'm going to go more west, because I know when I was younger, my dad took me on like a big waterfall tour over there. We went to like so many waterfalls, but some of them we were swimming in, some that had slides. But you really got to go to like a little bit more to the west, towards Wisconsin, which adds a lot more, drive time. Going up to Munison and
Yeah.
Marquette's, it's
It
little bit
feels
quicker.
more doable.
yeah.
Right?
But there's like this time warp effect when you cross the bridge. It feels like you get to places so fast. Like even though on the map it looks like it shouldn't be. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know what that is, but it always feels like I get anywhere I'm going when I'm up there pretty
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah.
But it always takes an hour. Whenever you go anywhere in the
Right.
UP, it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's an hour to get to the drugstore. It's an hour to
Right.
wherever. Right?
Yeah.
That stretch up at on Superior too. That's like state land, but they have all those little pull-ins that you can back right up to
Oh, yeah.
Superior.
A
We did
Steny stretch.
No, I think it's a train.
Yep.
Oh, yep.
Yep. We went to the campground there for a night or two, but I was seeing all those vans and stuff just backed up to
Yeah, to
Superior.
the
Like
water,
that's
yeah.
great, a little private
Yeah.
setup.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Have you been out to Isle Royal?
Isle Royal, I have not. No, I did South Manitou Island. But I mean not the same. But I've been itching to get to Isle Royal. Now that's north of the UP, right? That's like off the way up there, right?
Yeah. We did that, in 17?
Yeah, something like that.
Is that the one that you can see from Unison?
No.
Is that the
No, that's
That's Grand.
Island.
Grand Isle?
Grand Island.
Yeah.
I heard that's a good loop to take the ferry over and
For
camp
sure.
and do
Yeah. And you can, there's good hiking or biking trails there.
Yeah.
They're really nice. Yeah, Isle Royal is like about, if you're at Copper Harbor, it's like a hour and a half, 2-hour boat ride.
Mhm.
And if you can also get a boat from Houghton, I think that's 3 or 4 hours, but it's out there in
Yeah.
Superior. It's like, but yeah, that's a big backpacking place. But there is actually a motel,
lodge.
hotel kind of
Yeah.
thing. You can stay there, and that's what we did, and then just hiked out from there. It was really cool. We got moose out there, so
Wow.
you can actually see them.
Yeah, there's been a couple times where a trip almost happened there, but it didn't quite happen.
Yeah.
This year, I'm looking forward to. We have a date set, so usually that's when it gets in the calendar. It usually means it can happen. So we're gonna try to do. We're gonna kayak Pictured Rocks.
Oh,
yeah.
wow, awesome.
Try to do the camp, and we'll wait until the nicer season. So I think we have it planned for end of July or something. So
Yeah, after the black flies have tapered down a little
yeah,
bit.
I heard that's horrible. My cousin and his wife now, they did a trip when they were kind of dating and went up there, and they said it was just
Yeah.
relentless.
Yeah.
I'm lucky enough. I've been up there several times, but never had to deal with the black flies yet. So
Well, we have friends that have a place in Grand Marais. They have an Airbnb right on the harbor there in Grand Marais. And we've gone up and stayed with them a few times. And one of the tips that they told us, and they're probably going to be like, "Oh my God, they're going to tell the secret." But you can drive out and you can go to the log slide out there right on Lake Superior, and you can go down the log slide and then walk back. It's like 5 miles back to Grand Marais.
Back to town.
Yeah, and you can it's totally private. It's like this beautiful beach, and you can
you just
swim,
walk the whole lake,
you know, like
oh wow,
yeah. So you might want to check that out.
Yeah.
I don't know how you get back to your car, which is at the log slide, but I'm sure you have a bike.
Right.
You can figure it out, right?
well, we do a lot of car hopping with we're familiar with that from kayaking.
Yeah.
Take two vehicles, or sometimes if it's just two of us, we bring like you said, a junky bike that we don't mind getting stolen that we'll hide.
Yeah.
And one of us will have to ride back for the car at the end of the trip.
Yep.
We've
Awesome.
done a lot of that. When there's a will, there's a way. We do a lot of towing trailers with Priuses. And one time I have a funny photo of like 4 kayaks on the top of a Prius, Yeah, those things are sturdy, man. They work. Whatever gets it done. I always like regret not doing more of that kind of stuff when I was younger. When I got older and I started going out there and being on these beautiful rivers and just taking it in, I'm like, why wasn't I doing this when I was 17? Like the
Right.
second I had a vehicle, and but there wasn't really no one around me that was telling me about
Where to go.
Yeah, you can go out and be free. You
Right,
can go,
right.
go explore.
Yeah.
'Cause I loved it so much. I know I would have loved it younger.
Right.
But
right.
everything happens for a reason. That's what got me into music,
Exactly.
recording bands, and now here we are.
Yeah.
If I would have hung out in the woods when I was younger, I wouldn't know how to set up all this stuff, right?
That's right.
That's right. Well, we're actually planning a trip. We're going to walk the bridge over Labor Day, but the week before that, we're actually going to go up and we're going to stay in the Keweenaw, and we're going to go up to Estivus Pines.
Yeah, Esteban Pines.
Pines, yeah. Maybe do some hiking up there. And have you been to the Fitzgerald? It's one of the best places to get barbecue in the UP.
Is that right across the bridge, or is that?
No, it's up in the
No.
Keweenaw, way up in the Keweenaw.
It's Eagle River, I think.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah, Eagle River. So you're like way, like up here.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, that place, you can stay there. It's kind of, they've got these really like fabulous rooms. It's right on Lake Superior. Like you just hear the waves coming in, and you know, they've got the, you know, how Superior has those, like, it's not really all agate, but you know, the you know, rocky
Yeah.
kind of
Shoreline,
rumbling,
So you hear
it crashing
shoreline,
against
yeah.
there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really nice, and they've got this, so you can stay there, but then they also have this killer restaurant with awesome food, and then a really nice bar if you like whiskey. They've got like this amazing collection of whiskey, but yeah, it's a cool
I think
place.
my buddy Pat was up there. You said it's like right up on that thin, up towards the peak. Yeah, and they have like some cliff diving areas up there too, don't they? Like,
I think,
yeah,
I don't know.
yeah, he's been up there quite a few times. There's just so much up there to
Yeah.
explore. I always, you know, when spring, summer, fall comes, I really don't leave Michigan because they're just, if I need to get away for a weekend, a 3-day weekend,
Yeah.
hop in the car. And I know Marlo was talking about maybe going south this year just to go to the Amish country, and I think, where is that? I think it's Illinois.
Oh yeah, Illinois, Indiana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So just to mix it up a little bit. But, you know, I mix it up with the kids. We always did the UP, and one year we went down. I was like, oh, when I was young, I went to the Smoky Mountains. Let's take them down south. We'll definitely see some bears, and,
Yeah.
you know, and man, it's just so congested. I think it's because it's like right in the middle of the state that people just come from all
Yeah.
directions and just come in on that Pigeon Forge area and the mountains. But
Yeah.
it's way too congested for like what I like on a
Right.
vacation like
Well, and
that.
especially if you're trying to plan it around your like school for the kids and everything, because then you're pretty much pigeonholed right into those like the most like when everybody's doing
Yeah.
that. So it's like crazy.
Yeah, we usually we would have already done our UP trip. We'd try to do it like early spring and get it done before.
Yeah, early
know,
spring.
pools
Yeah,
open and-
yeah, before the mosquitoes get crazy and
Yeah.
black flies again. But yeah, I like fall. I think.
Yeah, September, end of September. It's
Yeah.
actually the best.
Yeah, it is early October. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this year we might do that. We might kick it to the fall a little bit. You know,
Yeah.
little year-end trip.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's also so many rivers down in the lower part of Michigan that we've done. You know, I love Pine River. I already said Big Manistee, small Manistee and stuff. But,
Yeah.
But then the Manistee River Loop seems to be a trail that for a while we were doing pretty often, at least once a year. You
Nice.
know. That's a nice hike. A lot of people just day hike it and do one day hike.
Yeah.
Even.
Yeah, that's a great area. That whole, just all the different trails. Isn't North Country Trail runs right through there,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Yeah.
Yep. So and actually, when you do Manistee River Loop, the side on the west side of the river, I think that's all North Country Trail, and then you
Yeah.
cross over the bridge. Now you're on the Manistee
Yeah.
Trail.
Yeah, I think we did there was a trail run up there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was a good one.
do you like trail running? Or? I sensed a little.
You know, my bones break. You know, yeah, I like a good trail run. I don't do trail running now. Like, I'm not conditioned to do it. Like we were running and doing a lot of trail races.
Yeah.
We would do what was that one called?
Dances with Dirt,
Dirt.
you know, that they have in Waterloo rec area.
I think I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a 100K.
It's a 100K relay. So
Yeah.
Wow.
you get
Yeah.
5 people that run 11 miles
Oh, okay.
on trail.
Yeah, and you'd come back and you'd be bleeding and you'd be covered in mud and bites, and it was supposed to be fun.
Well, the goal of that trails, that actual run, is to punish you. Like they just send you out on some trails that aren't really trails anymore. Like you're just bushwhacking up a hill, or you actually you run through a swamp near Pinckney, and you also run through the river. So the river that runs by Hell over by used to be Highland Lake, but you're actually running in the river. That's the trail. You run the river for
Oh, wow.
I don't know, like a mile, and then get out. I remember because I wanted to run it, so you're like, thigh deep in the water, just barely running, really.
Mm-hmm.
But I took dry socks because the very first time I did it, you're running on wet socks the rest of at least for another 2 or 3 miles. So I brought dry socks and threw the old ones away, and then just put some dry socks on. So at least it felt like a little better for the last part.
Right.
Well, we did do was it Tequamanon Falls trail race?
Yeah.
And I remember writing about it, and I remember saying that it was a shin biter because the roots would come out, and if you weren't careful, they would bite you would trip in them, and then it would catch your shin, and you had to talk about high knees.
Oh yeah.
It was. Ugh.
Yeah.
Just like really grabby, viney stuff that would kind
Well,
of trip you up.
the roots were out of the ground, and they would you would
There's
catch
all
them
these
on your
tendrils of roots.
Oh,
that you
yeah.
got to negotiate that's the trail, but it's like you get your footing's like, whoa.
I've noticed that when I've ran on trails, it's just, especially when you get fatigued, you start dragging your feet a little bit, or you get a little bit lazy with paying attention, and that's when it gets you. And,
Yeah. Then your face plant down. Oh.
Yeah.
My buddy Pat's actually right on the Waterloo Trail over there, so he does a lot of trail running with his dog, and
Nice.
he loves it. I mean, the thing about the trails too is it also feels like you're running a lot faster.
It does.
Because it's like I notice that even with a bike. If you're going down a dirt road, it's, 10 miles an hour feels completely different when you're on a single track. And there's trees. 2 feet on each side.
Yeah.
So.
Especially that area riding mountain bike, we did that too. That was super crazy. I mean, it just feel like, and then I don't know if you've been out there, but some of those guys that ride out there, guys and gals, they are just flying down those hills and around these tight corners. Like, oh my god!
You're talking about the DTE trails?
Yeah, the DTE trails plus the Waterloo Rec area, out there by Silver Lake. Pato.
Yeah.
Holy cow!
I've never actually done the Potawatomi Trail. I've never actually done that. A lot of people say they like it, but I'm so close to the DTE trails that I just do those.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are beautiful, the way they've, develop all that trail system. And I'm really encouraged by the fact that you can also do those, what do they call it, B2B trail, that run now is connecting Dexter and Chelsea, and that's
Ipsy
really cool.
soon, because they're putting it, yeah.
Yeah, there's fun trips. I mean, I don't think we've even scratched the surface of it, but me and Marla, we parked at the Metro Park and then cruised into Dexter and had some food and some drinks at the. I love the Dexter pub. I think it's just never been disappointed there.
That's awesome.
Have some food and some drinks there, and then hop back on the trail and go back to. And if we feel up to it, we'll do a loop at the Metro Park. But I think there's a lot more like that. You can also we parked at the. What's the name of the farm there in Chelsea, outside of town?
Robin Hill?
Robin Hill Farms. And you could take the path pretty much all the way to the trailhead for DTE and do the loop of DTE and then come back down the path, so.
I can see a bike trip coming up here,
But I feel like there's so many more B2B trail kind of dates you could set up and they're pretty welcoming for EV vehicles too, which is nice.
Yeah.
Well, we talk like we do all this. Running ended probably 4 years ago, 5 years ago. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
We both got plantar fasciitis because it was overtraining, right? You've wrecked your foot, right?
Right.
And it takes a good year, once you get that, to get rid of it, to let it heal and be quiet with your muscles and your feet. And, that idea, the momentum was gone at that point for me, to get back up to that point where you could run out the door and do 5 miles or 10 miles and, it feels good and you come home. But then you have, if you're training for a marathon or a 50K, you got to train all the time. And every Sunday you would be I can't even get off the couch. I got to rest. I got to feed my body.
Yeah, after doing 4 or 5 hours of running.
Yeah, and it became all consuming, that. I was done with running. So I don't really, I would like to get back into it, but I can't see myself doing
Nah. But, I mean, now we're just pretty much, walking, doing lots of walking. So,
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I could definitely see how I couldn't even imagine doing a marathon. So doing 50K. I mean, that's a feat. It's an accomplishment. I think you deserve to rest for a while, for sure. Yeah, that's I don't know. Maybe well, most I've ever ran was like, I don't know, 8 miles, but even that kind of felt like, maybe it's my form, or I didn't run a lot when I was younger, but it took a lot out of me. But I kind of like zoned out and wasn't even planning it.
Yeah.
But
that's kind of the sweet spot. You got to get past like running 5 milers and get to like the 8 to 10s, and then it starts feeling like, oh yeah, I could do 15 or whatever.
Yeah.
But you have to get to that level. If you get to running 8 and it feels it's fine, then you're the next transition.
Yeah, because I mean, I think I see that, because usually it was like 5K was like my that's how
you're just getting going.
That's the mileage that would gauge my health, you know, like, so I know I can run a 5K. Can I do it right now? And so I would do those often just to see where I was at. But I understand what you did. So it's probably just like a mental gearing that you learn to fall into.
Oh yeah,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
For sure. Well, some of the, we have like no time anymore because we have a lot of side projects.
Like constantly.
Yeah, constantly. Like we have the Life in Michigan podcast that we do. It's every 2 weeks. And then Chuck does Fans with Bands.
Yeah.
So that's
a little side spin off of, promoting local music.
Is that another podcast as well?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So we're kind of busy with that. And because we weren't quite busy enough, we started a nonprofit called GIG, The Art of Michigan Music.
Oh, wow.
And if you don't mind, we could talk about that for a minute.
Oh, yeah. I'd love to hear about
Brenda's
that.
got the shirt on, which you can see. So that was our very first year we did that. So again, it's more about like promoting the things that we love, particularly with music. So having done like concert photography and, just met all these great people that do this amazing photography. Then you've got these great like graphic artists that create this like posters, and they're still,
Album art.
Vinyl came back, so they're doing these awesome albums and CD covers and all this stuff. And I was like, man, nobody, like if you go to an art gallery, you're probably going to see somebody with paintings or like landscape photography or whatever, which is all great, but you really don't see the art that's like with the visual aspects of music, really. And so that's what GIG is all about, is like showcasing the artists that are in Michigan that are doing the visual art related to music. So they're videographers, there's poster artists, and so we did the very first one last year. That was at Art 634 in Jackson, and we kind of shot big. We did 3 days. We had live music on 2 of the 3 days. We had a big music market on Sunday. We had we exhibited like 18 different artists, their work, and
workshops.
We had some workshops on Saturday for like educational sessions, and it was really cool. But it was like really big, and we didn't know what the hell we were doing.
Right.
So it was a lot of work. But then, after doing all that, we were like, well, we've already invested in making this a thing, so we got to keep going. So we're doing it again this year. It's
okay.
It's November 8th at Art 634 again in Jackson. We're working on getting our educational sessions nailed down. We've got the bands already set. We're only going to do 1 day instead of 3, so to make it more manageable. But we'll have like food trucks out there. We'll have educational sessions. We'll have art. We also have some students joining us this time from the graphic design department at Jackson College. So they'll be showing some of their stuff. So it should be cool and a lot of fun. But yeah, it's another way that we're like just showcasing the art and music in Michigan. So.
Yeah, so it's all the photographers, the graphic designers, and stuff like that. And you guys did a nonprofit so that you could collect money from the companies and things.
Yeah,
make it a write-off for them. But it's mainly just about the event.
Yeah.
Then? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we have a newsletter that goes out monthly and it features different artists. So during the month,
all year long, we're trying to like just promote the artists, what they've got going on and what they're doing, and share the news about that. Plus, keep people informed about what we're doing as far as like, oh, we've got our bands for this year, and oh, we've got the featured artist, So
And keep top of mind, so when you say, okay, get your tickets, and
they're
they're there. And
yeah.
Well, this year it'll be free during the day,
Yeah.
so you can come see the art and you can come participate in the
Art
education.
market. And,
Yep.
But then at like 6, that's when it'll become a ticketed event. So people have to pay to get in to see, the music piece. So, yeah.
And when is that?
When?
Yeah.
It's November 8th.
Oh, okay.
So it'll be from 12 o'clock until about basically 11 o'clock at night. So from 12 to 5, the market will be going on. The art exhibit will be there the whole day, and the market for all intents and purposes. But we're just charging a cover for the bands, and they start at 7. And we've got Paper Lanterns, which is a punk band from Jackson playing. We've got Mazinga, which if anybody loves punk music, like old school punk Ann Arbor music, Mazinga is awesome. They're playing. And then there's a band from sort of the Albion area. I think it's Mosherville is where they really are from, but it's called Carbon Decoy. They're kind of a I don't know how to best describe them. Stoner doom kind of bands, but they're really good.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That sounds like I'll put that on my calendar for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I'm not too far
Check 'em
from.
out, yeah.
I also like that 364. Is you guys doing that old barn, like that area, that big open space there? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great venue.
Yeah.
So we'll have food trucks so people can come and hang out for the day.
Yep,
And
yep.
and there will be, like we said, a market. So the artists can sell their stuff. They can sell the art that they have on display, but they can also bring whatever they
whatever
have
else
that
they
they
got.
want to sell. And we have a couple. Do we have a couple album vendors?
We've got one confirmed right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some vinyl and
Yes.
collection. Yeah.
Yep. So people can buy some vinyl and buy some art and then check out some music. And you can learn some stuff because we'll have a couple of different round tables, one for graphic artists where we'll have some of the featured artists talking, and Chrissy Hughes, who's the professor at Jackson College who does the graphic design department. She'll be leading that. I'll lead the photographers. There's a photographer session. We'll have, I don't know if you know Doug Culm. He's like super awesome dude from Ann Arbor. He'll be in there along with Derek. Oh God, Ketchum. Sorry, Derek. He's out he shoots for Local Spins out in Grand Rapids. So we'll have those guys and Jenna Hovey, who's a great Lansing photographer. So we'll be talking to them, kind of sharing their insights on that stuff. And then we've got almost all of that nailed down except for our lead session. The other session will be Dave Seacott from Batch Brewing in Detroit, but he does their events and marketing, and so he's going to talk about like marketing and social media. So
Seems like
that'll
there's a lot of value for a lot of different communities for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing is we want it to be something where it, helps the visual artists because we're not charging, we don't take a commission. It's all, about helping them be successful in their art, and if they can make some money, great. But then also it's something for those that are curious about that stuff. Like how did you get into this photography? How did you do these things?
Even a great networking event for bands that are just
looking for
if you're a
somebody.
band and you're passionate about what you're doing, if you go there, you might bump into an artist that wants to help with your album art cover or do photos for you.
Yeah.
Or, they might listen to your music and like you and want to work with you. Or vice versa.
Right.
So very cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to try to make a stop up there at some point.
Awesome.
You said, is it 1 day or 2 day?
Just
One
one
day.
day.
1 day, just on the 8th of November.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's Saturday. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know how you guys find the time for all that. So how did that come about? Was it just like you just knew that there was something that nobody ever talks about, like the art of Michigan music kind of thing? And I mean, you're kind of one of those artists, so you kind of knew a lot of other artists that served bands and the music industry, and just wanted to make like an event that was.
Yeah, I mean, so we do Life in Michigan, and I'd been putting some of the local music stuff in there, and then I also got involved with a couple of it doesn't pay anything, but they're like magazines that do national bands, right? So if you're affiliated with them, you can go shoot Rush, right? So I started doing those, and I met all these different photographers, and again, like all these great artists. So about 9 years ago, almost 10, I did a show that was called Gig, the Art of Michigan Music, at the Ann Arbor Art Center. So they were like, at that time, and I think they still do this, where they have somebody like, oh, if you want to curate a show, we'll set you up, and then you curate the show. So that's what I did. I got a bunch of different artists that I knew that were doing this stuff, and I just loved what they did, so I wanted to show everybody else what they did. And so I thought, oh, it'll be in Ann Arbor, it'll be awesome. And it was really fun. It was like the exhibit was on for a month. So did that, and then just got busy with life, and we were still working and everything, so it was really hard to like do more. And then I was doing the Fans with Bands podcast. I was talking to Steve Gerbach and John Mooneyham, who are from Manchester, and they do Manchester Underground. They do a monthly music series, and so I was interviewing them about that, and they were like, oh, we really love Gig, it was so awesome. You should do it again. I go, people tell me that, but I'm like, I don't know if I want to like put all that work into it. They go, well, we'll help you, so so they have been helping. They do all the sound and everything for the shows that we've been doing, and there's just awesome people. But they kind of like said, oh, let's do this again. And Brenda's like, well, why not? And so I was like, well, let's just start doing it. And I'll tell you, like we were talking earlier, it was a ton of work last year because we just didn't know what the hell we were doing. And at the end, I'll tell you, the worst part about doing it is asking for money. I hate doing that.
Yeah.
Like, oh, can you, it doesn't go with my nature. So that was just so stressful. And then, you get to the event, and like, some people don't want to pay, like, the tickets weren't very expensive, but like, oh, I don't want to pay that money to go see this. Like, oh my God. But it was sort of frustrating. And then at the end of it, I was like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore. But then we were like, everyone was like, all right, it was hard. We learned a lot. And then after thinking about it, I was like, yeah, we learned a ton of stuff. We know what we're doing now. And so this year feels so much better because it's like, I know what we've got to do. We're still like scratching and trying to dig as much money out as we can. We've been doing all these fundraisers to just try to get some money. But yeah,
the first year in a business, first year doing anything is going to be the one year you learn the most lessons and feel the most pain, but I'm sure you're going to learn some lessons this year as well, but they're not going to be nowhere near as painful as.
Well, we've been digging on the fundraisers because we did like there's actually a roller rink in Jackson called All Skate, like the old school one that I didn't realize was there, but they do like fundraisers like for a nonprofit. So we did some in April. We did a skating thing, which was fun. We've got we actually got some fundraisers coming up. We've got July 8th, Hearsay Brewing. Have you been out there in Ann Arbor?
Yeah. Yep.
Tony there, that place is awesome. Their beer is awesome. They got the Improv Theater. So they're going to do like a bingo night for us. We're going to do some yoga. So Eclipse Yoga, Rue from Eclipse Yoga is going to do like a yoga class at Wolverine Pickleball. So we're going to have that coming up. That's in September, the 14th. And then Schuler Books is going to do like a week where you can, it's like the nonprofit will be us, Gig. So from July 20th to 26th, I think, something like that. 23rd. Well, I don't know. I'll have to look at my dates. But anyway, we're doing, we'll have some we won't have books, but we'll have our book list there and people can buy books and maybe we'll get some money. So.
That's cool.
So if you as a consumer, you can either do it online or go to a Schuler bookstore and say, hey, I want to support Gig. And you just need to give the code, and then they'll put the code in, and then all of the sales that the patrons had said, I want to support Gig, we'll get a percentage of that.
Yeah.
So it's the work, it's kind of it's a nice collaboration because one, we're going to be promoting Schuler Books to a whole bunch of people that might not know about Schuler Books. And so it's a good collaboration. And the same thing goes with like Hearsay, right? We're going to tap into their list, and get out our name about this event. And we're going to talk to people. And it's all about networking. Yeah.
That's the one thing that definitely opens up when you have the nonprofit. I know, like the Copper Nail here in town. There is a, they have their sales, so it's a thrift store, whatever.
Right.
So they're a nonprofit. Then you have to support nonprofits locally. So they have certain days where they're supporting the baseball team. And this, and they, the baseball team promotes Copper Nail, so people come in and they get a percentage of the profit for X amount of days. How was it setting up Marla, my wife, she's talked about nonprofits quite a few times. How was it setting up the board and getting everything situated for a nonprofit?
Well, we had started the planning for GIG, the last one, before we were actually a nonprofit. So we started setting it up to do the event, and then as we were working through it, trying to figure that out, we were like, we should probably just make this a nonprofit because we're really not going to make any money off it. We don't have any desire or goal to make money off it.
And a couple sponsors were like, "Why are you a nonprofit?" Like there was a lot of question, like why.
You get to know. I've had that too. They don't want to. They kind of have a rule of unless it's a tax write-off, we don't give money away.
Right. So we were like, okay, and then Manchester Underground announced, "Oh, we've just got our nonprofit status," and we're like. Oh,
you did.
You did. Well, tell us about that. So, our relationship with them and, how their process, and they connected us with their lawyer to do like the bylaws and those
so they
things.
helped with all we hired the lawyer. She helped. We'd written bylaws and all this other, and so the board was pretty much our planning team. So that was pretty easy. And then it was just having the lawyer just kind of look through and make sure that the bylaws made sense and made sure that, we were doing the right things as far as trying to incorporate the nonprofit. And it wasn't really that bad. The hardest part was the waiting because the state took forever to get back, and the IRS took forever to get back with our approval. It was like we were backdated. I think. We started in like April, so our official birthday is like April 24th of 2024, but we didn't get that until almost September.
Yeah,
it was like a long time, and we had it had all been submitted. And we, I'm sure the lawyer was like, "Oh my God, why does this guy keep bothering me?" And I'd every 2 weeks. So, had heard anything? Nope. I was like, oh, that was the most. But the rest of it has been. Fairly
and doing the taxes is easier if you're a nonprofit, because we're so small, right? It's not like we've,
we don't have any employees.
We don't have any employees. We don't pay any employees. We're all volunteer. Right. And, there's, we're not making any money, that's for sure. So doing the taxes was really, I think it streamlines a lot of that because you can... if you're under a certain threshold, I think it's like 50,000. You just file a postcard, basically saying, "Yep, we did it," and you send it in, and you're done. Yeah, right. Like
especially if they're not doing any payouts for overhead to pay people, salaries or anything like that. It's all just kind of in and spent on the business.
Well, one of the things that we learned, and we didn't know this going into being a nonprofit, and the folks out at Art 634 have been so helpful explaining some of these things. But as a nonprofit, you get 12 liquor licenses.
It's special licenses. The option to do a special license. So then you can, as a fundraising option, you can apply for a license and then sell alcohol, at an event and make some money to help support your nonprofit. So that's what we're doing this year. We actually did it last year for the Michigan Music Alliance because at that time we didn't have our nonprofit status. But so basically what it is, the nonprofit applies to the state to say, hey, we're going to put on this event, we're going to sell alcohol, or we'd like to sell alcohol, and then they will look at your application and you pay a fee and
you get a certain amount a year of those and
12.
We just got to, but basically they want to know where it's going to be, make sure it's okay. And
where it's going to be. Yeah, you got to get
great.
it approved by the local police department. It's got to review your plans and make sure that you're being responsible, obviously, and you've got people that are going to be responsible servers and are
so you can
certified.
go into a restaurant that doesn't have a liquor license, and I mean they couldn't serve it and charge for it, but you can have like a little table set up and serve alcohol or sell alcohol.
Right. Usually it's associated with like an event. Right.
Yeah.
And so we did it with Steampunk on the Bricks.
Yeah.
So we pulled the permit. We weren't even here at the time. We pulled the permit and we bought the alcohol. We had to purchase the alcohol. We take it there, and then we hired bartenders. You can't actually. There's all these different rules and intricacies, but they've been.
We had certified bartenders serve the alcohol, so it was like a nice little way to actually recoup some money, and it helps whatever that event is. Right. So,
I know. Yeah, with alcohol, it is funny because I was looking at because we have friends who have done like every one of Marla's sister's weddings, our weddings, and they come, and weddings are the same way where it's like the venue won't serve the alcohol, you have to bring it, so you have to hire your bartenders, and then technically now the venue itself doesn't have a liquor license,
right?
But I was looking at so you as a bartender, you could have a mobile bar set up on a trailer because they sell those, and so I was looking at that for them, so they can show up and with bartenders and the trailer ready to serve alcohol, but you have to provide it, which is, they can also it help you link you up with somebody who can provide it, stuff like that. So it's it makes sense, but I'm kind of amazed every time I learn like a new thing that kind of like opens up options with that because it always seems so strict. I know in town they just had we just had like 2 places open. I think one of them already has a liquor license, but it's like one of those things where to encourage development, they have like it will stay there forever until they sell. Yeah. Because they don't, it's just, so it's basically because you're a new development, you have your liquor license, but if you sell, it doesn't get transferred with the property. So they're still like looking for a permanent one so that when they sell, because that right there will increase the value of the business substantially, Yeah. You have the real estate and you have the liquor license. But I just still think it's great to just get things moving, know. And I think now Asher Creek, the other business that's new restaurant, they're about to get one too. So it's the same kind of thing. It's like a temporary loophole. Yeah.
Well, there's so much I don't know about liquor law. There's so much. There's just a ton of stuff that's like seems like how did this? Why is it this way?
I always thought, I think the same thing. I'm like, the fact that it's like this thing is like almost like real estate, but it's like a piece of paper that says I have one of the 5 licenses. Yeah, I own it. And some places there's a person that owns 2 of them because they just bought them. They're like, I'm staying on them until they become more valuable or something.
And they can charge more for them because there's like only so many licenses available, and then you're like, well, I guess I got to pay. I don't know how much they are, but $100,000 for this thing, But
I think there's some tied to the county, some to the townships. So it's like they could find one from Jackson and bring it over here. So it's like it is a really interesting. Like I said, the fact that it's just a piece of paper and there's a limited number, it's like a collectible item. That's rare.
Yeah. Well, and it's really so we because we're really heavily into the beer scene. There's so many great people in Michigan and in the Brewers Guild. There's a bunch of great people that work in that area, and we've become really good friends with a lot of those folks, and we're actually allied members of the Michigan Brewers Guild. But talk about like strange laws. There's like, if you're a microbrewery, depending on how many barrels you produce, you got one type of liquor license, but then you could be a pub or I can't remember if it's a microbrewery or micropub or whatever. But then you can sell in one license scenario, they can only sell what they make. In another scenario, they can sell what they make plus other things like spirits. And then it's like, how is this? Why can't you just, if you have an alcohol license, you just sell alcohol? If you want to serve, whiskey and the beer you made and the cider you made, here you go. But you can't. It's bizarre.
It's definitely. I know that there's a lot of creativity. I've heard like how people have set up the microbreweries in order to
you can
do things
bond the liquor from another place. I don't know.
And it's not a secret, even the people that are in charge of making sure everybody's following the rules, they'll tell you the workarounds. And, this is what you got to do if you want to do that. And
that's what they said, especially when we were doing the special licenses. Is Actually, the Liquor Control Board is there to help. They really want to help you figure out what you're doing. So I called them a couple times because I wasn't really sure on some of the, how to fill out the form. How do I answer these things? They were like super helpful. They were just like, oh yeah, you got to do this, this, and this, and they'd ask some questions like, so are you planning to do X? And like, no, and so then okay, so this is what you need to do. And it's like, all right, cool.
Thanks for keeping me out of prison. Appreciate it.
Right. Yeah, because they want you to be successful.
Right.
Really.
Yeah.
So I thought it was really a refreshing aspect of government, I guess.
Yeah. I know like a lot of restaurants, if they don't have a liquor license, they can still have like a local winery come in as long as they have their own thing over there serving the wine.
Yeah.
So there's lots of loopholes, but you don't know about them until you know about them.
Right.
What I didn't anticipate doing when I retired.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, learning all these things.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I always, when we think about nonprofits, me and Marla always brought up, there's lots of things that we care about that have come up in the past that we're like, that could be a nonprofit. Marla, she owns the Ann Arbor Music Academy, and we've talked about, she has had kids come in there and say they couldn't afford the lessons. Like, I think that'd be a great nonprofit to provide like kind of scholarship or like lessons for especially kids who already done a lot of work on their own to develop their craft or their skills on their instrument, to give them professional lessons, and let them apply for that. So
that would be a great thing. There's
lots of things that we've brought up, but we're just completely new, don't know anything. We just know like there's a lot of moving parts, and you have to have a board and
she could have a foundation do this, the fundraising piece, but then still have the academy be the business piece, right?
Right.
Thinking.
Well, yeah. Well, that was the whole idea is like that allows her to serve more through her business. But
right.
we would also hopefully expand that out to, give money to other music schools. Also keep the schools around. Give them more students. So
for sure.
It wouldn't be something that would be only funneling students to her business or something. But it's really around the passion of just what she sees, like what music, studying music brings out of kids and the confidence that comes with that, and trying to increase it,
Yeah. No,
I know
that'd be a great idea.
I mean, it's not just with music; it's with a lot of things. When growing up, I feel like I kind of got to where I was just being somewhat capable to figure things out because, my dad was there, and whenever there was like a spark of interest in something, and he and I was already kind of grinding on my own.
Yeah.
Hop in a car, and then we end up at Guitar Center, and I'd have a new drum set or something, like just kind of like
cultivating it.
Yeah. Cultivating. I think that's something a lot of kids don't really get much of, and I think whether it's gear, lessons, opportunities, like
Well, I do think that I think something that a lot of libraries have been doing is, at least from a gear standpoint, is being able to help you get some of that stuff, or at least some of, because back in the day when I remember the library was just books, and you go to the Ann Arbor Library, or I don't know if Grass Lakes Library does it. I know Chelsea's does. You can go check out instruments and do, try a keyboard, or do those maker things, where you go 3D printer and, I
know Ann Arbor Library does like video lights. Like you can go in there and get video lights for a shoot. And it's free if you got your card.
Cameras.
Yeah.
Like you can get the whole night.
Oh, cameras too. Huh?
Yeah. I'm like, wow, what the heck?
I need to go in there and see what that is.
We didn't have to buy cameras? You could have just checked them out?
Oh, no. I got to have that camera.
Do they have lenses? They always say own the camera, but rent the lenses. Yeah. Yeah, I should see what they have. I mean, I work right down the street from the Ann Arbor Library. So
there you go.
If there's lights, and I've got a good amount of friends like out here that there's so many like little niche lights and things that I don't need to buy, but I know people that have some of them.
Yeah.
Like whether it's like a goofy, unique lens or some lights.
Yeah.
No, I just can't justify buying.
The whole
all
lighting thing is like I took a class at ProCam because pretty much just shot concerts. It's like whatever the lights or lack of light is, or have a flash. That's it. But the whole lighting thing is just like, wow, this is.
Yeah, when you really get in like
cinematography
and like how they light scenes, it's a whole thing, but it's fascinating.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing is contrast, especially with cinematography. So light and then it's dark, light, dark. Like the more kind of like patterns and light and dark, you have in a scene, the more depth it has, the more interesting it is.
Yeah.
I'd like to get more into filmmaking in the future, but right now I do a lot of interviews, which like I've done a lot of documentaries, but usually I'll find a good source like a window or a lamp, and then I'll have one little bi-color light that I can balance the same and fill the other side or something. But it's more playing, like you said, playing with the scene that I'm already in versus full on film where you're really thinking about every scene. But I think the first film I did, short film, it did pretty well at some festivals, but that was just shot in the woods in Waterloo Rec. Actually, we posted up at my buddy's house and just went back in the woods there, and it was a beautiful fall day. Just yellow leaves falling in the background everywhere. I mean, just the perfect fall day. And it was just a long kind of scene of these guys hiking, and they get stuck in this loop, and kind of discussing all kinds of stuff about life and things. But it was a good exercise in like editing dialogue. Editing that much is just talking. So now I like to do something easy where it's easier, where it's like a living room scene, and then they're like in a car. Like just one scene at a time. Shoot one scene a day for a while, for a couple of weeks or something. But there's so many creative things, especially now with technology and the resources online with YouTube. You can just learn anything and do.
Yeah, that's how I figure out so many different things, or even just how to fix the drain in the bathroom.
Right.
It's like, oh, that's how you do it. There's this little clip underneath. It's like, nice.
I just re-bungeed my zero gravity chairs, and I didn't even know that was a thing until I watched a YouTube video, and I was like, all right, that seems pretty easy.
I know.
I'm surprised I even had to look it up.
Well, it's funny, because you can't. Well, I don't know if any kids think about this today, but when I was a kid, there was none of that. There was no internet or anything, and so you're like, sometimes I think how did we figure things out? How did we drive to to the UP? Oh, we had an actual map. I remember the atlas
printed
and stuff.
MapQuest. Yeah.
Well, I remember the book. You used to get that Michigan Atlas book, which I don't know if they probably still make it, but that thing was invaluable. You'd be out in the middle of, out in Lance.
You really needed a passenger for that because that thing took up the windshield when you opened it up.
Yeah.
I think those are still valuable, especially if you go up to the UP and you want to do the two tracks up there and stuff. I think a lot of those are marked on that map.
Yeah.
But I remember my dad. That's what he marked the waterfalls on. And stepmom was pulling that map out, and they were yelling at each other. The whole experience.
Yeah. You were supposed to turn right. No, I did turn right. No, you didn't.
It's upside down. North's that way. Yeah, there wasn't even an indicator in your car. Now there's a lot of vehicles even says, you're driving north. Right. There wasn't even that, in cars. And luckily we had a caravan and we were watching Disney movies. Didn't care how long the trip was at that time, Yeah, it is crazy how fast things change. And you don't even try to, I think there's a lot of just kind of putting heads together and being like, oh, we could figure it out. I'll come over there and help you with it. We'll figure it out. And then people would come over and you'd figure it out. But now it's I think we can still troubleshoot because we're so fast to do things ourselves with the internet. But, it's before I even think the zero gravity chairs, it's pretty obvious. All you had to do was look at what was already there and order the straps. But, I found I had to watch the video before I was confident enough to do it.
Yeah.
When it's because it's just the default, it's the easy thing.
Yeah.
There's actually something recently that really valuable that I thought was really cool. I was getting ready to, I hit that deer, right? So my quarter panel on the front came in. So my door was, when I opened it, it was rubbing against the panel. And I was going outside. I put on my shoes, and I was just, in my head, I was going to grab my non-mooring hammer, and maybe just start hitting things, And I said, let me just sit down really quick and look on YouTube. And the first video I pulled up showed this trick where you take cardboard and you open your door and you bend the cardboard, open the door, and then shut the door and let that cardboard close between the quarter panel and the door. And if it's still creaking, you just fold the cardboard again and do it again and shut it. Oh. And that actually shoves that quarter panel forward and fixes it without, if I would have took the hammer to it, I would have screwed something up, But I thought that was a really cool trick where it's yes, always go to YouTube first, see if there's some kind of trick that somebody had, because the best tricks are going to show up first. They're going to be right there at the top. Yeah. And
Yeah. The only thing that isn't, so they've got all those different hacks, but the thing that isn't on there is where's that beach that you want to go to,
Right.
and where's that morel patch.
Right.
Nobody's putting that out there on YouTube.
Sometimes on the forums you can get lucky with people giving tips, but you're not going to see someone like, here's the trip guide.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Which is fine. That leads, then you get like to discover stuff, right?
Right.
So at least there's some exploration going on.
I think everybody who's probably knows enough to provide that content kind of knows the game. Like the game is like, you got to go out there. I don't know. Go out there and see what you can find. Find your spot.
Yeah.
You know?
Look for the ridge line.
Yeah. Because you might find a better spot down from where I'm at because you went down a different trail or something, you know?
Yeah.
So they kind of know it. But yeah, I love planning trips like that. I'm definitely overdue. Yeah. We usually do a spring kind of guys kayaking trip where we do like right in the spring after the thaw, and we'll do like a river in Michigan. And there's just a lot going on with everybody's schedule this year, so that didn't work. So we bumped it out to the Pictured Rocks.
Nice.
So,
that'll be awesome.
but it was a nice reset, like coming out of winter. You know,
Yeah.
you have that nice weekend and
Yeah.
middle of nowhere. But was there? Do you guys have like a website for the gig where all the information is, or is that on the Life? Is it Life of Michigan or Life?
It's
in?
Life in Michigan.
Right.
So the website for Life in Michigan is lifeinmichigan, just altogether.com. There is a link to get to gig from there. We have a newsletter that goes out every week that we call the Sunday Sip, and that's on Substack. But you don't need the applications, just the platform where it is. You can see all that stuff on the Life in Michigan website, and you can subscribe to it. It's free. If you want to kick us out some money, that's great, but you don't have to. And then gig is gigartmich.org. So gigartmich.org.
Okay.
Yeah, and we've got the Fans with Bands podcast. That's every other week, where I talk to bands and some other fans.
Yeah, and that's now hosted on Substack.
Yep, that's
which
on
is
Substack, too.
that's worked out well.
And the Life in Michigan podcast that goes out that's hosted on Substack, but that goes out on like Apple and YouTube and wherever.
Now, I've never really dove too much into Substack, but is it kind of set up where you can have your separate different content and people can just subscribe to it? So like the Life, so like you put that there, but it's like its own thing that people subscribe to just that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. You can. So we have on Substack we have Life in Michigan, which is the newsletter. We've got Fans with Bands, which is just the podcast, and then we also have Gig has its newsletter there too. So you can get to all those things, and Substack started out as a like primarily writers, sharing their work and their publishing, and it's really evolved. We got into it because, as you probably know, social media, Facebook. A lot of people try to promote their things on Facebook. You get, I don't know, I have actually 1,700 friends, on Facebook. I probably really only know maybe 50 people on there. But anyway, there's probably 2 or 3% that see anything I post there. So the idea was like, and there's this guy, his name is Seth Werkheiser. He's out of Wisconsin, I believe. And he had this email that was called the Social Media Escape Club. And I subscribed to that. And I told Brenda, I was like, oh, we got to do this. We got to get off, spend our time on Instagram and Facebook, and they can just go and we'll have our own, because we have a website, but how do we socialize some of that stuff and make more connections? And so that's what Substack and the newsletter, how that came about. And I think it's a great platform. It's still social media-ish. They do have a notes feature, sort of like a.
So you say like newsletter, but is it mainly like you're making it almost like a blog post, and then when you post it, it goes out like
goes out in an email, yeah.
But you kind of format it rather like formatting it like a blog post. You format it like a newsletter. Is that what your newsletter basically
that's
kind
a
of
Sunday
is?
Sip. I mean, it's evolved. When we first started it, we really didn't know what it was going to be. We just it's evolved, and so there's basically like a personal essay at the beginning. And then we do like updates, like this is what's going on in Life in Michigan right now. We've got an article that just came out. We're working on another one, so keep your eyes open for that. We've got a Google Calendar now, which Chuck used to list 5,000 events that are going on in Michigan.
All
and I'm
by
like,
hand. I just
I was
like write them out.
Right.
Yeah, it was really long, and it was kind of overwhelming. So we've put it into Google Calendar now, so people can subscribe to our Google Calendar, and they can get to that from our website. So if they want to see like all of the events, it's a
Yeah,
curated event.
Yeah. Just kind of showcase the events that are going on, and then we just share some of the stuff that we're doing like during the week, or things that we're reading, things that we're listening to. I do some things where I'm listening, like, oh, I love this album. Put something out
What's
there.
spinning in Chuck's up.
What's spinning?
Yeah.
I
Right.
got a turntable in there and all these records. And so,
That's great.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit more personal. Like when I remember Kate, she's our web designer, and we were doing a revamp, and we were talking about like the About Us section, and we were talking about what to do that. She's like, well, why do you even need that? They just need to go get on your newsletter if they really want to know who you are, because the website itself has become more like a magazine. So we go out and we'll write about a band.
Yeah.
Chuck will write about a band, or we'll write about a new brewery opening, or we'll write about a festival that we were just at, or we'll write about a trip, or we'll write about this experience today, perhaps. And so it's more event driven, and it's more like talking about people outside of us, where the newsletter is more like, this is what I'm thinking about right now, and this person, Agnes, has really got me fired up, and she's really annoyed me, and I want to talk about it today, right? Like, so it's more of a personal essay where you kind of like, I think they would be it's editorial like, but it's just personal opinion. It's not about necessarily an event, but just what we're thinking about.
Yeah. But the nice thing with the Substack platform is that it gives you the ability to, so if you just want to write, you could write. If you're a visual person, either video or still photography, you can put those things, embed those into your newsletter. So again, it kind of gives you that direct connect. If you get people that subscribe to your newsletter, then you're actually talking with them, right? You're spending that time to share with them. They're obviously interested because they subscribed, and so you're kind of directing it instead of like throwing something out on social media and hoping somebody looks at something, and it's like, screw that shit.
Yeah. Well, there is a lot of dependency you have, and Facebook doesn't give me much piece as far as like its reliability. I've had issues where I was running ads for client, and they spent like $3,000 was spent in ads in like the Middle East. It's like, it wasn't my language. It wasn't an area I've ever targeted before. My account only targets people in Michigan.
Yeah.
It was 100 times more than I've ever spent. Right. You guys didn't have any kind of thing that popped up that didn't raise any flags, Yeah. And then I tried to get my money back, and no support, and it was forever. And then finally they started telling me, well, this happened over 8 months ago, so we can't, based on the terms and conditions. And I'm like, I have support tickets going back to that. I finally just gave up. I'm just like, this is, after like every week finding a time to get involved. It's just, so it's just, you got Mark Zuckerberg out there doing all kinds of other stuff. Right. He doesn't care about Facebook anymore.
No.
He's gonna let that just fall apart. But I believe in like the newsletters and collecting people's contact info, and I haven't done much with mine, but I'm still collecting. Every time I do a podcast, somebody or somebody books work with me, I'm building a list and getting consent to send them stuff. So I plan on someday to take that more serious. But
it's super easy to set up.
And you have to do it. Nice. You have to set up like, I'm going to do this every Thursday, right? There's going to be a newsletter.
Yeah, you got to be consistent.
And we have a pretty good open rate. Like, it's at least 50% most of the time that people will open up a newsletter, which is, I don't know, I think that's pretty shocking, right? Like, that it's getting that kind of open rate. And we get feedback. We were at a festival Saturday, the Ellis Sharp.
The Art, Beer, and Wine Festival.
Yeah. This person comes up and says hello to Chuck, and Chuck's like,
yeah, she just wanted to thank us for doing the podcast. We're like, what? Because we were you mean there's people besides our friends and family?
Right. Yeah.
And she goes, oh, yeah, keep up the great work. I love it. I'm like, how did you find it? Well, I think she found us through Substack or something like that. But I was like, wow, all right, cool.
Yeah, podcasts are interesting. I had done one before this one with my cousin, and it was pretty popular, especially like downriver area where we had a lot of friends and family, and people were sharing it, and you're either really into it or you didn't really understand it, because we went really deep in a lot of different things, you know. And it was so wild when you meet somebody, because they already know so much about you, because they're sitting there, they've listened to you talk for hours or something, and and you could tell by the things they're bringing up, like, oh, they know who I am, like they know who I want to talk, what I want to talk about, it's crazy when you put yourself out that much, and then it's the same thing every time you come across somebody you don't really know that says they listen to it. You're just it's like, what an honor. Like, you decided to spend an hour with me, even if you hung out for one podcast and listened to me for an hour. It's crazy.
No, it definitely felt like it was very rewarding to just think that, yes, somebody, like, it is an honor because they took the time. They thought it was, worth their time to actually listen to you, and you're like, oh, okay. Yeah. And it kind of reaffirming to the fact that maybe we were doing something right, again, trying to, like, showcase folks that are not necessarily, in the radar all the time.
Plus, you have friends in real life, so it's not too hard to believe that people want to be around you.
Most of the time they do.
Yeah. So I've started to stick on the Substack thing. I've never really thought about it too much, but kind of back to the newsletter thing. So it has like an option to send news. Like, okay, so you set up a Substack. They say, is this going to be a newsletter or is it going to be like a blog? Right? Is that kind of like?
It's pretty much like,
because how it sends it to your list is different, right? A newsletter, they'll actually send them like a newsletter in an email.
Well, it's like a blog. It's very much like a blog, but it could be a video blog. You could do but there's options when you get in there to like the podcast. You can have our podcast is embedded into our Substack for Life in Michigan. So when that goes out, we schedule it and it goes out to all of our subscribers. So our podcast goes out.
Yeah,
and then
but it is emailed. So it is like an email. So it's basically that same kind of concept for newsletters.
They're not clicking a link to Substack. They're actually looking at all the content in the email.
Yep. Yeah. It's all dumped into the email, and links to your website or whatever. But you don't even need to know that it's on Substack. If you want to, you can. There's an app, obviously, and a site that you can go to. But it can just be either as elaborate or as basic as you want, and it really can be just a newsletter function like MailChimp, or Constant Connect or whatever those other
Constant
ones are.
Contact.
Yeah.
Well, when he brought it up, because we'd had a MailChimp email for years, right? And it always cost money because you have to it's like a pay to play, right? With MailChimp, and if you want to have cool formatting features in MailChimp, it's more money. If you want to do this, it's more money. So when we went over, and it was I always felt like so much work to put a MailChimp together each time. So when Chuck brought it up, I was like, oh, no. But it's really easy to use, and if you've ever done any blogging at all or used WordPress or anything like that, it's so simplified. They've got these you just plug it in, you put it in there.
Yeah, click and drag the video, copy, paste the link.
And it works really well. Yeah. It will tell you when there's a problem. It's nice.
Yeah, it's really easy to set up. And what was I going to say? The whole MailChimp thing, it was you don't have to necessarily make it super complicated or, again, you can make it as elaborate or as basic as you want. And the way the Substack makes their money is they take a cut of your subscription. So you offer a paid subscription. You don't have to, people can just get your stuff for free.
Right.
If they want to support you, then you have a price. It varies. Everybody just sets their own prices. But that's where they get their money. Yeah.
There's a minimum that Substack says.
$40 a year or something like that. But then that's where Substack makes their money. They take a cut of all those.
And that's if you decide to do money, there's a minimum. But if you could do it for.
I think you have
to set it up to say if you want to subscribe, it's $40. But there's always a free option. So it defaults to if you went to Life in Michigan right now, it would default to saying, Life in Michigan's $50 a year. Do you want to do that? But then if you look over just to the right, there's, would you like to get it for free? And then you can get it for free.
Oh, okay.
So you got to click that. because again, that's how Substack's making their money. They're taking a cut out of what you get. And, we're like super small fish. There's like really big time like authors and writers and stuff on there that have got like 10,000 subscribers and stuff.
I've had the call to action where somebody I was watching said, subscribe and do this, do this group. And it's definitely good to have your own list because even if you leave Substack, you have that list,
got it, Yep.
And I've seen other places like that will try to keep that list or like, I know I kind of deal with that right now with like the Chamber's calendar. I'm like, I know that people have subscribed to this. Where you guys keep that information, But also I don't know how that works. So it's probably your calendar where it's like you add it and it becomes an additional calendar on your Google Calendar that you can see or not see.
Yeah, but
so
we don't
it's not
have
really
we
a
don't
subscription thing,
right? That's exactly how that works on the Google Calendar. But we don't necessarily know who all. It's a public one, right?
Right.
So we don't necessarily.
It would be nice just to see the number of how many people have that additional calendar in there. Like it'd be great to. So then I would know the success of it because, the issue I see a lot of chambers have is struggling with that event calendar and my idea. I don't know if you guys seen it, but I do the Grass Lake Chambers site and their newsletter and which we haven't figured out a system to get it out steady. But it comes out, gives you updates. But the calendar thing, I kept seeing that the village had a calendar that they were trying to keep up. The township had a calendar, the DDA, I'm like, why don't we just have one calendar and I give you the embed code and you put it on all the websites, So I kind of figured that out, but it'd be great to, especially if I want to take it to other communities, it'd be nice to see like, oh, there's 100 something people that have subscribed to this that are now like seeing this on their calendars.
Well, we picked Google because it was the easiest and the cheapest. But there are some other like options for calendaring where you can actually collect the email addresses and stuff. But we just wanted to make it really simple for people to be able to, if they want to see the calendar and they want to link it to their, which is kind of nice because I can see all of the events.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it. And this is linked to Google as well. So there's basically it's linked to a dedicated calendar. Yeah. There's a subscribe button where you can do the same thing. Subscribe and you can add it to your Outlook calendar, Google Calendar, or whatever. But it's got the back end support where people can submit events, Then
That's another. We could have set it up that way, but we opted out of that.
Yeah,
we were like,
there's enough.
You could do a form on your website and then just add it that way. If people want to. It sounds like you find plenty to put on there. So.
Yeah, we just curate, for again, it's like this is the stuff. So then it's the things we're interested in. So you may or may not be interested in all that stuff. But then it's also not a laundry list of like, oh, here's a garage sale over in this area, and because that's what happens, right? It's like, oh, I've got this tool sale here, and like,
you want it to be
half the
curated.
people that read your stuff are like, I don't care about these things.
Yeah.
Right. If they're reading our stuff, they know that it's going to be about music, or it's going to be some like weird, art thing, art show, or it's going to be a beer. They kind of have a sense. Like if you are into the same kind of extracurricular activities, for a lack of a better way to describe that, you're gonna want to know about these events that are going on, right?
It'll be a finite list of stuff that's more.
I mean, they always, a lot of people online influencers, they always say like, you're thinking about the community you serve, and I've always thought kind of like what you guys are doing, where it doesn't really have to be, it's just outdoors or it's just this. It's like everybody has 4 or 5 different kind of like little niches they're into, whether it's like Halloween stuff or it's so spooky stuff, or it's bands, or it's FPV racing, whatever, And when if you're sharing all those things, you'd be surprised. Like even you're like hyper niching down, but there'd be a lot of people that have the same exact kind of things, Yeah. As long as you don't have something that's like really obscure, and they're like, I hate when he writes about this. Yeah, because it's really weird. It's a weird hobby.
They might, and that would be okay, right? Because that keeps them on their toes, right?
Yeah. I mean, if they like 3 out of the 4 things you're doing, the chances are they're going to find at least the 4th one somewhat interesting. Like, I'm not hunting down glow in the dark glass, but I understand the lure. It sounds like something I would do,
Well, there for a bit, I mean, and this is like nobody really has any interest in it, but really me and my family. But I did write about genealogy stuff for a bit. So like I would collect and I would do a thread about a grandmother or some great grandfather that did some weird things, and I did some little articles on them and pictures and did kind of like a background on it, and it ebbs and flows, right? So like nobody has been interested in it for 3 or 4 years. But now we have another generation of kids coming up in the family, and they're like, Aunt Brenda, don't you have like something on so-and-so and so-and-so? I'm like, here you go. And I start, and it gets them interested in those family members. But, you know, you're not going to be interested in them. But I like the ability that I've laid it out in an article that seems interesting, and I've written about, it's not just like.
Kind of how to do it. So,
but about the person, right? So like here's Grandpa Lueck, right? Like, and here's his story and where he came from, and did a narration with it. So it brought that person to life, and so that they can read about it versus like he was born here and he died here and he did. I mean, like, give it a little story. You might not be interested in it, but the next generation in my family have like, oh, where is that stuff?
Right. I mean, I think it's I get more and more into history, and like, you know, the older I get or whatever, and it's fascinating to learn about the, you know, entrepreneurs of the past in this area, like the things they did with the rail system and the casino.
The rail system, that's really wild.
I mean, it's just, you see people just, I mean, Jackson was a very wealthy area. I mean, we're all talking about that all the time. It was like, you know, founding place of the Republican Party, and it was just booming at one point, and that trickled out into Grass Lake and and Chelsea, and, you know, it's just, I always love reading about doers, and, you know, I mean, that's why you guys are even on the podcast. I think it's fun to be around people that are doing things and making things happen, and reading about that in history is always super interesting.
Yeah.
You know? The things that, you know, whether it's roads and infrastructure and things that wouldn't even exist if somebody didn't just have an interest in making that happen, you know?
Yeah. Or like a friend of ours who's a writer, Dinah Stampler. She recently wrote a book that's Kalamazoo County Characters. And just reading through that, it's like these people that were, you know, movers and shakers or just very prominent in Kalamazoo County. And I had no idea that celery was like a huge gourmet item in like the 1800s.
Really?
Yeah. And like Michigan, the Plainwell area, was like celery capital of the world. And like people paid a lot of money for celery. And I'm like, really? It was like, wow, yeah. So you're like, yeah.
Celery's always been like one of my least favorite vegetables. I feel like if you give me one of those trays, like I'm avoiding the celery, but I'm going right for the broccoli. I love broccoli.
Oh yeah.
But that's
equal opportunity there.
Yeah.
Yeah, but she did a really nice job.
Yeah, it's
like
great.
Like each chapter is a different person, and it's not like it's not like reading an encyclopedia entry.
Yeah.
She's got some interest in it.
She's got quite a few there.
What does she have, like 25 maybe characters in that book?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, it's in a book. She put it in a book.
It's in a book, yeah.
We interviewed her on the podcast. She came on. We talked about the book and what it was like to research it.
Yeah, she's very much into Michigan history and history in general, but really great writer. But she shared she's also into haunted lighthouses. So if you want to know anything about haunted lighthouses, you need to talk to her.
I feel like it's adjacent to, like, we talk about 3 or 4 things that you're into. It's like that one's completely adjacent to history.
Oh,
you know? History, ghosts. I mean, ghosts they only dress old. You know, they're only from a certain time.
There's not a ghost from 2012.
Yeah, there's not.
Maybe there is now. I don't know.
Yeah, there's not like a ghost walking around in a band T-shirt. Right. You know.
Maybe there is.
That one guy that went to the Slayer concert and died. No.
Yeah, he's out there still headbanging. Yeah. That sounds interesting. I mean, it's something about it too when it's the area, like it's like your hometown or something, just like your family. You're doing research on your family. It's like, oh, this is my genealogy. You know, it's closer to home. You know, right here. So I've been here for 14 years, and I've bumped into people that share something like, and I'm just like, oh wow, that's fat. Like I heard one time that the train depot was never even supposed to be built in Grass Lake. It was like too nice for this area. It was actually supposed to be built in another town. So like the railroad, guy comes down. He's like, well, why is this built here? Like this is not where it's supposed to be. So it's, the lure is that we got a lot nicer train depot than we were supposed to have.
Interesting. I might have to do some research on that because I have one of my grandfathers worked on the railroads and was
this area.
in this area.
Wow.
Yeah, and I'll have to do some research on that.
Yeah. Yeah, because farmers hated them and would shoot at the trains.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because
like-
they were forced to like give up the property for the rails, right?
But they would catch things on fire because they were like the
Electric.
sparks
Yeah.
and they were electric and they would kill people randomly because they wouldn't hear the train coming.
Yeah.
But they would also kill their cows that might be standing on the railroad track, right?
Yeah.
And so who was that was telling us the story about they would shoot at them as they were driving by. Like the farmers would go out and like shoot at the trains.
Wow.
Yeah.
Especially in this area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might have been,
Somebody at the Co House, I think.
I think it was, might have been Scott, who was
And that's-
over at the Michigan. Scott Jerick, I'm pronouncing his last name wrong. So, sorry about that, Scott. But Scott is one of the founders of the Michigan Military Heritage Museum.
Oh yeah, right down the street.
Yeah, and that used to be like here in Grass Lake, and now it's over in Jackson. But he was telling us about, like, I think it was him that was telling the stories about trains and like, they used to shoot at them.
I'd love to get a historian on the podcast because, I mean, when you talk to one, I've talked to different people, like even at the Lost Railway Museum.
Yeah.
And there's, you have a curator there, somebody there that just knows a lot, and it's like you just see them light up, and they're just like so excited that you're just there to listen and you're interested in it, and then they're just. And I could just listen to them talk forever. It's fascinating stuff.
Scott would be one.
Yeah.
For sure. And
he's got lots of stories.
Diane. Yeah.
Oh,
both
Diana,
of them.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, they both. Yeah, Diana could go tell you all kinds of stuff. She's also she has a website called Promote Michigan, so she's very much ensconced in the travel industry in Michigan and like all the different kind of like events that are going on there. So, in addition to the history, she's just she can tell you a whole bunch, and she's like this huge Hemingway fan. And Walloon Lake area, up by what is it?
Petoskey.
Yeah, Petoskey.
Charlevoix.
Charlevoix. Where's our friends
Boyne.
at Stig? Boyne City.
Yeah.
She knows like all that stuff. She's like, oh yeah, there's this, and this. I was like, oh my gosh, it's just a lot of information.
Yeah, I love that area up there.
Yeah.
Actually, we were just talking about that for a vacation. There's like right next to Charlevoix, there's a campground, and there's a bike path that takes you right into downtown Charlevoix.
If you go up there, you got to go to Stig's Brewery and Kitchen. Talk about awesome barbecue. That place right there, holy cow.
Stig's?
Stig's, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, really, really good.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah.
I just recently had Texas barbecue. Went to like one of the. Oh man, I didn't even pick the place, but oh my gosh, it was like one of the top rated barbecue places, and that was just.
Yeah.
Stig's is Texas style.
Oh yeah,
You
for
can-
sure, Texas style. Oh, and so if you like barbecue, Yellow Dog, which is associated with Batch Brewing, so they've got the Yellow Dog like food truck or whatever. But Yellow Dog Barbecue, Steven down there, I'm pretty sure that's all he does now. He did some like out to Austin, Texas, with some friends to like do research and stuff, which like you're researching brisket, but it's something
Makes
to do. But
sense.
he's like so into it, and his food is really good too.
Yeah.
It's in Batch. It's
Yeah.
in Corktown.
Yeah, Corktown, Detroit.
Yeah, I was hoping to get a smoker this year. I haven't went down that road yet, but man, that sold me though. Going down there and having that, like, there's different levels to it for sure.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
You think, you're just smoking it. Like, how many different ways is there? But yeah, it's definitely worth studying the greats for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the. Well, thanks for the suggestions. Also, thanks for coming out, man.
Yeah,
It was nice
thank
meeting you
you.
both. I love what you guys are doing. I'm definitely going to subscribe to the newsletter.
Awesome.
And
Awesome.
If you have any
tip-
questions, just let us know.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure
and hopefully
we'll
you
be-
can come out to gig. That'd be cool.
Yeah. I'm definitely going to put that in my calendar, and I'm sure we'll be bumping into each other at events and things, and maybe collaborate on something in the future.
That'd be cool. Yeah. We've got to get down to. We go to the Jackson County. What do they call it? Events and festivals. They have a brown bag quarterly for Experience Jackson, and the Grass Lake Chamber. I think we've met a couple of folks that are on the chamber. They come to that event and talk about what things that are going on, and we've been trying to make a point to get out to the think it's the Wednesdays you get at the market.
Yeah.
Wednesday
Oh,
nights.
here?
Yeah.
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 So there's we have two. We have the Grass Lake Market, which is once a month. There's one's on the third Tuesdays, and then we have another one that's like the music market.
Yeah, that's what I was
there's
thinking
two.
of, yeah,
There's
music
two.
market.
But we have the traffic jamming coming up as well. That's always pretty popular.
That's when is that?
Let me pull up the events real quick, just so I can remember them all.
Yeah, because that would be cool.
So the Grass Lake Market, the next one is June 11th. Which is a Wednesday. So,
Yeah.
And then we have the music in the park and music markets, and those are two different times each month.
Okay.
So the next one of those are the 18th. They also started adding this like picnic and flick, like so they do movies in the park now, which is pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
But the traffic jamming is July 11th and 12th.
All right.
And that just keeps growing and getting bigger every year. You know, got a great bands, great sound. This year,
Do they do like a car show and stuff too? Or?
yeah, yep,
Yeah.
yep. Car show, lots of food trucks. They do the 5K race. There's,
wow.
I mean, there's just a lot of stuff going on.
Oh.
And that one's usually I always make an appearance there because it's right down the street. So I cruise my skateboard, my one wheel down there, and dip in. And I got a lot of great footage last year, some video. So I think I'm going to edit like a little promo for this year or
Cool.
something. But
yeah.
awesome. It's amazing to see how much that's grown since I've been here. You know, it's starting to draw a lot of people in.
That's cool.
And I think it's on the same week this year as the boat races. So they always they have like the small outboard motor races on the lake every year, like the championship. And this year it's like the same weekend. So there's going to be a bunch of people down for that as well. So it's going to be a busy town that weekend.
Nice.
So,
Nice.
Awesome.
and if you guys need a place to park or hang out, well, I'll be here.
All right.
Just
Cool, man.
knock on the door.
Awesome.
Cool. Good meeting you guys.
Yeah, good to meet you.
Brenda.
It's nice to meet you.
Thank you.